The last leg of the route along the German coasts leads from the island Ruegen to the Polish border. The old steam engine rushing Roland crosses Ruegen the way it did 100 years ago. Time is of no consequence in this protected area. Nature has been left to its own devices here. Successful beach athletes are training on Germany's sunniest island. The route along the Baltic Sea starts in Rügen's east and takes us via Greifswald to Aalbeck, which was once the German Emperor's seaside resort. A 3-kilometer bridge reaches from the mainland to Rügen, Germany's largest island. It is lined by dozens of peninsulas, scattered with cottages and small towns. The chalk cliffs, where light and shadow meet at sunset, are what Rügen is most famous for. Rusty reds and royal blues colour the sea in the hidden bays, only to be reached by secret paths. The German coasts have hidden many of their most beautiful features. Europe's largest ruin is found on Rügen's east side, Prora, a construction of epic proportions. 20,000 holiday flats were planned here in the 1930s for deserving Nazi comrades of the Third Reich. Prora would then have become the largest holiday resort in the world. But the mass holiday under state surveillance never became a reality. The construction was never finished and was abandoned at the outbreak of World War II. Today, the desolate buildings are placed under a preservation order and may not be torn down. There are plans for a youth hostel to be established in the grim ruin.
Some say the site is filled with negative energies, but we think it has a unique historical background. It needs to be maintained.
Diana Hintz has started her holiday job with mixed feelings. She is in charge of the campsite right next to the Third Reich's holiday ruin.
The housing block might not be pretty at the moment, but it offers great protection from the wind. The construction site ends here, and no one walks this far. The kids can crank it up, and no one bothers. Best thing is, you walk 30 meters away and find yourself standing in the Baltic Sea.
The crumbling building disappears behind trees and bushes as we are heading towards the beach.
It gives me great pleasure to think that other people spend their holidays on this island that I call home. I have got this all year round. The air is different here. It heals you and keeps you well and fit.
Rügen is one of Germany's most popular holiday destinations. The architectural style of the seaside resorts and the piers here are the trademarks of the former fishing villages. Tourists already came to Ruegen in the 19th century. Families with their kids flocked to the island's shores due to the fine sand and shallow waters. The island sports nearly 600 kilometres of coastline. 60 of these made up of white beach sands. One of the most visited beaches on the island is that of Schaprode. Not far from the beach, fishermen have moored their ships in Schaprode's harbour. The local chef, Ralf Haug, will be the first to look at today's catch. A good haul is getting hard to come by these days. Modern fishing methods have depleted many of the Baltic Sea's fishing grounds.
So, have you got something for me?
I can give you turbot in Flanders, like these here.
Great. Great. You got some big ones as well?
Sure, there you go. Nice big pikes.
The chef has to resort to imported fish more and more, though his customers prefer the local fare. Ralph needs fish that weigh at least 1,000 grams in order for the fillets to stay nice and juicy when he heats them up. But precisely those catches are becoming rare. Ralph has fulfilled his lifelong dream. In the coastal resort Binz, right by the waterfront promenade, he has opened his own exclusive restaurant. As a native of southern Germany, Ralph delivers a breath of fresh air to the local northern cuisine.
We are attempting to create a down-to-earth cuisine with a new twist. It's not about creating the 100th schnitzel with broccoli and a trivial side dish. It's all about looking at the basics and deciding how to make the best out of a potato and a cauliflower.
As a very hands-on chef, Ralph prefers to prepare the dishes himself. Today he is cooking scallops with cauliflower. As a starter, an amuse-gueule, a culinary welcome from the kitchen.
We find ourselves working with produce that is thrown out by everyone else. Take the little carrots going out to our guests as a welcome. They are set in green foam made out of carrot greens. These greens, which are usually thrown out, are absolutely delicious. They close the circle with the carrot's taste. This is all there is to our dishes. It's down-to-earth cookery and a close bond with nature.
The things Ralph does to a carrot are simple, but spectacular.
This is first and foremost a really tough job. Sometimes it is difficult to find pleasure in it, but it can give you so much on a good day. When it's all about the taste and the flavor and the ability to work creatively every day is absolutely great.
Ralf Haug has always been drawn to the sea. He has now moved to the Baltic coast with his family. He takes a walk on the beach every day, no matter how crammed his schedule may be. He needs these moments of serenity. They give him the strength needed for his 14-hour days. Smoked quail eggs are up next. Ralf Haug wants to revive the tradition of exquisite countryside cuisine with the help of modern technology.
It is every chef's dream to earn a Michelin star one day. For most, it remains a fantasy, and we'll have to wait and see if we have what it takes.
His dream comes true a few months later. He has earned the very first Michelin star on the island of Ruegen. The hunting lodge, Granitz, rises over Ruegen. The Renaissance castle, with its Italian battlements, was built in the 19th century. It resides on the Tempelberg, the highest elevation on the island. The journey along Germany's coasts now leads us south to Moritzdorf. Harvesting machinery, animals and the elements have left their mark on the fields viewed from above. The traces left by humans seem to be drawn with the precision of a ruler, while nature has followed its own laws. A stream separates Moritzdorf from the neighbouring Barber. Those wanting to cross need to take the ferry boat.
My ferry boat is to be powered by muscle only, so that's what I do.
Moritzdorf's ferryman still rows by hand, as it has been done for the past 200 years. Kai-Uwe Strandmann takes around 80 trips a day, transporting people and bicycles to the opposite riverbank. He is clearly a man for all seasons.
We row every year non-stop from March until the end of the year. The only time the ferry doesn't move is during thunderstorms.
Kai shares his work with his father. Due to his age, his father had to switch to a motorboat.
Changeover takes place every 3 hours. Actually, we're only off for 2 months in winter. There are days when I think, I'm tired, I don't want to get out of bed, but this job forces you to do it and go down to the shore and ferry people across the river.
Kai and his father have been working together for 20 years. At a 50-cent fare, it is hard to make a living and cover their expenses.
We are self-sufficient. We need the money we are making to survive. So we carry the costs for the repairs. Now we aren't given any grants.
Being a tourist attraction doesn't necessarily guarantee state support. While other means of transport around the island are subsidised with public money, the ferrymen are left to their own devices. Always aboard is Jason, the boat's furry commander. The sociable pavement special has been the mascot of the business for 12 years now.
I cannot imagine leaving here. You know, it's like, how to say it? It's like a tree. I feel a bit like a tree. I've stuck roots here. And I won't cut those for anything in the world.
Ruegen mesmerizes its visitors. For many, Germany's largest island is also the most beautiful. In summer, the corn poppies blossom here. The bluebottles line the meadows, and their petals illuminate the fields in a radiant bright blue. It is then that the landscape of the Baltic Sea's island is picture perfect. Ruegen's famous steam engine, rushing Roland, has been puffing through the line operation since 1895. Little remains of the original railway tracks. Achim Rickert is one of 20 locomotive drivers. His job is the envy of many men, young and old alike.
All the people who find this romantic, well, they don't work with steam engines. Come hell or high water, I'm out there in the drafty driver's cab. It's too hot in summer and too cold in winter. But the train's technology simply captivates me.
Achim and his colleagues don't just drive the train. They have to refill the coals and water on each trip themselves. The steam engine needs at least 2 tons of coal every day. On the way, Achim shovels it pound by pound into the fire. Achim has wanted to work with steam engines ever since he was a boy. It was sheer luck that he got his dream job in a trade extinct everywhere else in Germany but on Ruegen. It's a dirty job, but he loves it.
I check everything to see if it's holding up and still working. I load up the coals and take the water before I even think about boarding the locomotive for departure. The steam locomotive is so energetic and full of life that I feel a close bond with her. I cannot compare to the relationships I have with humans and animals, but she feels a bit as though she was alive. You start to sense how she's doing, which parts aren't working properly and where she needs a bit of help.
At a leisurely pace, the steam engine crawls along the narrow gauge track.
You really experience the locomotive. You see the fire burning in the boiler, the way the bars move with each other. You get where the movement is coming from.
Travelling through the most beautiful landscapes of the island evokes memories of the grand times when travelling was still something out of the ordinary. The view and the soft bucking of the wagon lets your mind wander freely.
The rushing Roland is by no means a tourist train, and it isn't a museum either. It is a normal train that is used by locals and commuters. We expect the steam engines to keep running here for at least another 20 years.
Dawn at Zelin Beach. The pier was designed and built in 1906, at the height of the seaside resort architectural style. The beach is a crowded spot on summer days, but the sun's most radiant glow can only be caught at dawn. Leaving Ruegen, the journey continues 60 kilometers to the southeast. Here, the small island of Vilm can be found. Vilm has been converted into a nature reserve. To set foot on the island is usually strictly forbidden. Already under the communist regime, the general public had been barred from the island. The GDR's leader Erich Honecker and his central committee used the area as their private hunting ground. Today, Vilm offers a unique sanctuary to a broad range of plants and animals. Only few people are granted access to the island. One of them is an artist.
I was 12 and on holiday with my parents when I saw the Baltic Sea for the first time. My father blindfolded me and led me down to the shore. I felt the wind growing stronger and I heard the seagulls scream. I sensed the wet air, and when we reached a dune, my father literally opened my eyes to the beauty of the sea. It was a full-body experience of nature, the coastal landscapes and the sea. This day might have been the most poignant in my life, as the sea has inspired all of my work ever since.
Volkmar Herre is a photographer specializing in shots of pristine nature.
The island Vilm came to be the center of my work. There are enough isolated places here. All I need to do is walk a little, and another nature reveals another gift to me.
From time to time, the artist's path crosses that of the island fox, who, unbothered by humans, chases after mice and moles. Volkmar Herre is seeking to capture unique moods that lie hidden in nature. He spends days wandering around the island without taking a single picture. Sometimes the extraordinary has him waiting for a long time. Herre's pictures explore the sea's different faces, the constant changes, and the flow of time. The most important tool used for his compositions is the light.
I prefer diffused light over a really grey glow. The type you see when you think, gosh, what a horrible weather. Those are my favorite conditions for taking pictures. There is magic to be found in nature then. People often shake their heads when they see me standing in nature, wondering what I'm up to. And the moment I'll tell them that I'm taking pictures for a book of fairy tales, they understand. saying that they can imagine that too.
His lavishly illustrated books tell the story of enchanted places, moments frozen and forevermore preserved by a special camera. The photographer stopped taking assignments years ago. Volkmar works solely for himself, without an advance idea of what he will end up with. He is guided by his deep trust in nature to reveal her secrets to him.
It's a tedious process of seeking and finding, and then realizing it with the very simplistic means at my disposal: a wooden box and a tripod. I don't use any technical devices. No viewfinder, no battery that could fail. I just need to rely on my eye and trust my experience. Once the exposure begins, I need to allow the process to take place. These pictures don't document events. They rather depict processes, developments in which every movement will leave a mark, except for those fleeting ones that will disappear without a trace.
Herre's equipment could not be more basic. There is only a tripod, an exposure meter, and a wooden box. Herre doesn't even have a lens. A tiny hole in the front allows some light to enter. It is called a camera obscura. It takes 20 minutes to create a picture. Anything moving will either smudge the photo or disappear from it completely.
I think about our mobility and our desire to speed things up more and more. What will happen if we speed up our life to such an extent that we won't leave a mark anymore? The rough ocean will always be a calm ocean in my photos. Every time I develop a film, I'm mesmerized, even though I know why it looks like it does. It feels like magic.
In order to be mesmerized by daily images again, one needs to look at things from a different angle. From a bird's eye view, lush meadows transform into beautiful new patterns. The next stop is the old Hanseatic city, Greifswald. The city's landmark is St. Nikolai, a cathedral built in the 14th century. The belfry towers over the marketplace with its Gothic warehouses and gable roofs. It is 100 meters high. Not far from St. Nikolai's belfry, the chimney of a Cold War relic rises above Lubmin. It was once the largest nuclear power plant of the GDR and the pride and joy of the regime's power supply industry. 10,000 people used to work here once. After Germany's reunification, the nuclear power plant was immediately switched off. It was considered a safety hazard. Its disassembly started in 1995. It is being torn down at a cost of €5 billion. Soon after, the site will be the terminal of a pipeline through the Baltic Sea. It will deliver gas from Russia via the Baltic Sea. The preparations are still running at full speed, both on land and underwater. It is Andreas Grundmann's job to clear the path for the pipeline along the bottom of the sea. An old shipwreck needs to make way.
I've spent my entire life at sea. My gran dragged me up here when I was 5, and since then all I've really known is the water.
Andreas Grundmann is an underwater archaeologist specializing in old shipwrecks. His work near Lubmin's shore is a tricky business, as Lubmin's seabed hosts one of the largest shipwreck sites in history. The submersible takes off to the wreck. The wind force is clocking in at a 4, and the team of divers is hoping that it won't get worse. For safety reasons, they may not approach the wreck if the wind force hits a 6. In 1705, the Swedish fleet sank 20 ships near Lubmin. What was once created as a barrier against enemy ships is now an obstacle for the pipeline.
We'll try and throw in an additional anchor to secure the right position above the wreck.
The weather doesn't seem to hold. There's too much wind and a rough swell. Grundmann is under time pressure. The construction of the pipeline must not be delayed. But the hoisting of the wreck is tricky. It has to be lifted unscathed, as it is supposed to be preserved for a German underwater museum.
You know, lots of people ask me what the difference is between me and the average archaeologists. I tell them that there is none. It's just that I float above the objects.
The Swedish had sunk their ships at a shallow point in the open sea. They intended to cause the fleet of the Danish enemy to keel over here. But the massive undertaking was to no avail. The position of the wrecks was revealed to the Danish by a native of the region. The chain of sunken ships had been discovered on an aerial image in 1990. Grundmann's divers have secured the planks with sandbags to prevent them from being washed away by the current. The sea has eroded the ship over the centuries, and the divers bring bits and pieces to the surface. They are aided by the lessened gravity underwater.
It's really a once-in-a-lifetime experience to dive down to all these different shipwrecks. They've just been preserved the way they were over the centuries. I can get an idea about the craftsmanship back then, and generally about the way they used to live.
While the underwater archaeologists are still clearing their path, the pipes of the gas pipeline are already waiting to be installed. Thousands of them are stored here. Each is 13 meters long and 1 meter wide. They will soon be wrapped in concrete and installed on the bottom of the Baltic Sea. The pipeline will deliver 55 billion cubic meters of gas and deliver Russian gas to Western Europe without crossing the Ukraine or Poland. Shift changeover is taking place on the boat above the wrecking site. Time is running out on the divers. The wreck presents many unexpected obstacles to their work.
The wreck is incomplete, but the ship's base is still there and is full of the ballast stones that every ship usually had. In addition to these, the stones that were used to sink it are lying on top of the wreck.
Large parts of the Swedish ship are covered with sand. The divers clean the ship's planks with strong high-pressure suction machines. Sand is getting cleared by the cubic meter. The original Swedish ballast stones have to be salvaged too. Back then, they provided stability for the ship, and now they are supposed to be sent to the historical museum along with the ship. Grundmann's divers collect them in large plastic bags.
Lift them up.
But today, they don't manage to remove more than a single bag of stones from the wreck. The current is too strong. They will return tomorrow in the hope of better weather conditions. There is a lot of pressure on Grundmann's team, but it will take months before all of the shipwreck's parts will be secured and salvaged.
The last man down can come up now.
The journey leads further eastwards, along the coast. Ruegen is an island at the mouth of the river Peene. It used to be an important lookout post of the GDR border police. Their job was to stop any attempt of escape to the west. Today, only 2 people live on the island. The journey carries on over the Baltic Sea to the island of Usedom. Usedom is half German, half Polish. The former research centre of Peenemünde lies on Usedom's German side. It was here that in 1936, scientist Wernher von Braun began researching missilery. During World War II, he built Hitler's so-called wonder weapons, the V1 and the V2, the forerunners of today's space rockets. 282 rockets and buzz bombs were launched. From the outset, there were problems with their steering control. The world's first live TV broadcasts were done here to allow for the possibility of watching the launches from afar. The V2 had little military value for the Third Reich. The target control was unreliable, and there were too many launch failures. The Rocket Research Centre has survived the war. It was a military area before the fall of the wall and was open to the public in 1993. Today, it has been turned into a museum. The beaches are getting broader again before our next destination will be reached. Katrin Holtvik and Ilka Zemla are practicing here. They are beach volleyball professionals and represent Germany's national team.
Beach volleyball is mostly played on beaches, so this is our workplace. Not the worst place at all. Really, this is all we could have wished for, and we are blessed to be able to do what we truly love on the most beautiful beaches in Europe and the rest of the world.
It sounds like a dream job, but first of all, it is hard work. Strict training schedules and a disciplined, austere lifestyle dominate the athlete's life. But in return, they get the chance to visit the world's most beautiful beaches.
Everyone traveling to the sea hopes for white sand or at least light sand. It's like you're getting your own piece of the Caribbean here in Germany. And this is what makes this place so fascinating and pretty.
For the past 12 months, Katrin and Ilka have been pushing themselves to the limit. They want to win the German national championship and make it to the Olympic Games. But competition is stiff. The long-awaited day has finally come. Few words are exchanged during the healthy breakfast at the hotel. There is nothing left to say. The day will decide whether their training has paid off. They've so far stood their ground in the tournament. The weather forecast is predicting rain for today's finals. Only a thunderstorm could stop them now. The stretching exercises prevent cramps and injuries. Now, Katrin feels fully prepared. 6,000 viewers in high spirits have gathered. With her hand, Ilka secretly indicates her next move to Katrin. They employ the codes from the sign language used by the deaf. Defeat and victory are a finger's breadth apart.
We both have our strengths and weaknesses. It's not like one of us is better than the other. Sometimes my game's better, sometimes hers is. Next time around it has switched again. But it doesn't matter, because we trust each other completely and we will manage every crisis together. That's a great feeling.
The weather forecast was right. The tension in the stadium is rising as the final draws to a close. At the same time, the predicted rainstorm is swiftly approaching. The audience in the stadium puts on the rain capes that were laid out earlier. Victory is just 1 point off. They won. Katrin and Ilka have really made it. They are the German national champions of 2009. It starts raining during the award ceremony, but Ilka and Katrin are so heady with victory that they hardly notice it. Today they will be celebrating. Tomorrow, training will continue for the Olympics in 2012.
It's a bit like a marriage, really. Sometimes I get the feeling that I'm seeing her more often than my boyfriend at home. But it's really important for us to get along with each other, on the court and off the court, and we certainly do that.
Usedom's landscape is defined by hills, forests and lakes. 1,900 hours of sunshine annually make it Germany's sunniest island. Staying close to Usedom's coast, the journey takes us down from Zinnowitz to Banzin. Usedom is known for its so-called Kaiserbäder, the Art Nouveau architecture that was popular during the reign of Germany's last emperor is back in fashion. The white city mansions have shaped the look of the seaside resorts and retain the splendour of the Kaiser era. Usedom is also home to some rare and endangered animal species that have almost completely ceased to exist in other parts of Germany. The sea eagle, a bird of majestic elegance, calls Usedom its home. The sea eagle had almost gone extinct in Germany. It has only survived here on the Pomeranian coast, reproducing at a splendid rate. No one here could be more excited about this development than Dirk Weichbrot, the keeper of the eyries.
Now, the sea eagle population has taken a very positive turn over the last 20 years. The environment is doing much better these days, and there are less chemicals and toxins in the food chain that would otherwise end up with the sea eagle. Now, this positive development results mostly from the hard work of environmentalists and rangers involved in the sea eagle's well-being. Now, they have ensured that the sea eagles could bring up their young in peace.
The ranger doesn't like to talk about the exact positions of the breeding grounds to protect them against poachers. He studies the sea eagles' breeding behaviour and determines the state of their population. It's not an easy task, as the shy sea eagles flee from humans on sight. The moment one gets any closer than 400 meters to them, the birds take flight. Apart from the bustling seaside resorts, there are many quiet corners, rarely visited by people. It is here that the perfect conditions for the development of intact biotopes can still be found.
The sea eagle stands for an entire range of animal species. He's at the top of the food chain, and the way he's doing is an important indicator of how nature and all other animals are doing in the coastal region.
An adult sea eagle is surveying his territory. Eagles are famous for their eyesight. They perceive more than 50 images per second. Humans, by comparison, a mere 24. Sea eagles can spot even the smallest movement of their prey, from incredible heights and in difficult lighting conditions.
The most impressive thing about the sea eagle is its sheer size. It's practically the largest bird of prey in northern Europe. Fully grown adults can reach a wingspan of up to 2 meters and 60. They can get 50 years old. There are even accounts of eagles reaching 80 years of age. So you could really compare a sea eagle's lifespan to that of a human being. They're monogamous birds. Once they have built their first eyrie together, they will stay with each other for the rest of their lives.
Sea eagles breed every year and have an average of 2 chicks annually. They feed mostly on fish, but they are known for hunting seabirds and rabbits too. Although the sea eagle was declared a protected animal as early as 1908, this wasn't of much help for the bird's population. Chemicals used in agriculture decimated the bird's numbers, with the biggest damage arising from the environmental toxin DDT. Nowadays, the sea eagle's mortal enemies are trains and wind generators. Today, there is even a surplus of sea eagles in Usedom, and the first couples have begun emigrating to areas outside the reserve.
There is no bird as majestic. If you see the sea eagle on hunt, or if you discover a new eyrie on a walk in the woods, now these are moments of bliss for everyone who loves nature. Seeing that a couple has bred successfully and watching as the young eagles leave the nest fills me with joy. These are beautiful sights that have become rare, if not impossible, over the years.
Today's episode of Baltic Coasts ends here with the Eyries. From the white beaches on the island of Ruegen, we bid farewell to the few remainders of long-gone centuries that have shaped the face of the coast and will live on for many generations to come.